How do you actually recognize and also avoid narcissistic abuse? A lot of times people struggle with figuring out what it is, then they figure out about recognizing it, and then they struggle with avoiding it or not going back to it. So how do you actually do that? We're going to dive into that today. My name is Ben Taylor. I'm the founder of Raw Motivations, the creator of the Narc app, and your guide in the 45-day Clarity Challenge. Today's the last day you can sign up for this month by going to claritychallenge.net. Check that out. A way to be able to find clarity from the abuse, a clarity from the toxicity that you're struggling in or that you're out of or that you're not sure that you want to go back. Helps break the trauma bond, work through rumination, and get clarity about you, the situation, and what you need to do to heal and move forward. If you like what you see here today, talking about narcissism, narcissistic abuse, my journey in narcissism, please hit subscribe. Hit that notification so you get notified when we drop new videos each day, when we're doing live Q&As, when we're going live on the channel, like multiple different things, just to be able to connect and be able to bring that awareness to everybody out there. Well, a lot of times when we're talking about narcissistic abuse and like recognizing it, sometimes you see it like the next day. Like sometimes you see it like after you've been in the relationship. And you're like, oh man, now I look back and now I like see it. Like, what in the world's going on? Well, like we want to get to the place where we're starting to see it ahead of time. Like where we're not getting in or sucked into a relationship, and we want to be able to do it before you get caught up in it, before you get stuck, before you get trapped or trauma bonded in a narcissistic relationship, and be able to avoid it. So I want to talk to you today about how to recognize and avoid, and also how to keep you safe and growing moving forward. So when we talk about narcissistic abuse, it's important just to give clarity to it, but then also just give it like due diligence of like, this is real. Like this is something that sometimes people are like, narcissistic abuse isn't real. No, it is real and it's very, very dangerous. It causes a lot of side effects. It causes a lot of symptoms. We've talked through just in the past week, different aspects of how it causes CPTSD, of how it breaks you down emotionally and mentally. Like there's so many different things that it like hurts and breaks down in that relationship and with that other person. Regardless of the havoc it brings to the workplace, to the family dynamic, to relationships, to breaking and destroying friendships, like so many different things that happen as a result of narcissistic abuse. Now, sometimes once you've been with a narcissist and once you realize that they're a narcissist, once you see the traits and you see the things, you're like, wow, this matches up. Once you see it, you see it. Like it's almost like then you can't see it. Sometimes though, you'll see it the first time, but you won't see it the second time. We have a couple of videos about this as well. Like sometimes a person will go from overt to covert. So sometimes you'll be with an overt person that's yelling and raging and screaming at you and it just looks like a generalized like asshole. And then you're like, whoa, can't do this anymore. And you either have someone save you out of that relationship or you get out of that relationship and you get with someone else who's the same person. They're just covert. And they're just really silent. They're just giving you the silent treatment. They're just quiet. They're belittling small passive-aggressive things. And you're like, why do I feel the exact same way when they're different? Well, they're not. They're just disguise it in a different way. Okay? So narcissistic abuse is real. It's dangerous. Recognizing it. So let's talk just for a moment. Like, what does it actually look like? What are the things that we actually see with it? Especially when we're talking about covert, it's hard to spot sometimes. It's hard for people to be able to see it and understand it because the flip is slow. It's something that you slowly see over time where this person is belittling you, devaluing you, giving the silent treatment, punishing you, so many different things that you never saw at the beginning because they weren't there at the beginning. They were hidden. They were kind of pushed down. And then they slowly revealed over time. We've done several videos talking about narcissistic red flags. Do you know your red flags? There's like 3 of those. There's like 30 red flags. There's like lots of different like videos. So like check some of those out first off to just be able to understand like what are the red flags. But like some of the stuff that people like miss a lot of times is like that person, let's say first off, like that person can't put themselves in your shoes. Like they can't understand where you're coming from. Like you're having to explain like basic things because like they can't actually wrap their mind around like, wait a second, I can see where you're coming from. That makes sense. Typically, a narcissist only has like a one-track mind and a one focus of like, it's just this, it's just about me. I don't really see your point, okay? Like this is where you start to explain like basic humanity. Like, I'm just trying to teach you like how to be nice, like how to communicate, like how to be loving and respectful and honest. Like this is where a lot of times like we struggle with that. Sometimes you're like in the relationship and you're playing like the detective. Like you're having to search and try to figure out what is actually going on. Like, why are they giving me the silent treatment? Why are they disappearing? Why are they not communicating? And all these things. And you become like crazy sometimes feeling like I don't know, how do I figure this out? Because there's something there. I just don't know what. Okay. Like you're on edge Like sometimes like your body like knows like your body's not working, maybe sexually, emotionally, physically, like your body, like something's wrong with it of like, hey, like I don't know what's going on. I can't perform. I can't act. I can't eat. I can't, whatever it might be. Sometimes the body knows and puts you into this like safety protection mode before you even know mentally and emotionally that you're in an abusive relationship. Okay? A lot of times you'll see with recognizing narcissistic abuse, you'll see the hypocrisy. You'll see like this person doesn't follow up with what they say and what they do. And there becomes a cognitive dissonance of like, what do I believe? Like, do I believe what they say? Do I believe what they do? Like you start noticing this early on relationship where the person says one thing and then you see the opposite come out and you're like, this doesn't make sense. That's the whole aspect that you have to watch out for. Like you start seeing, you can see a lot of times in a relationship, you'll see like small little things that they'll lie about. Maybe that's like, not gaslight. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about like lie about. There's like small little things. And you start to think like, okay, like if they can lie about that, they can lie about something bigger. And a lot of times they do. Maybe it's like the excessive need for admiration or like always looking for you to validate them, looking for you to respond instantly, like looking for all these different things. And then like the flip side of when they don't get that, what is actually happening? Or when you actually tell them no, when you set a boundary of something, what actually happens? Okay? A lot of times a narcissist wants to slowly come in, erode your boundaries, completely break your boundaries, destroy your boundaries. So like when you're able to see and understand your boundaries, like a lot of times that is a big sign. Like you said no and they flipped out and they made you feel bad, you did it anyways. Okay, because like that whole aspect of like, let me get through your boundaries so I can control you. Maybe it's something of talking about their past, having fake vulnerability, talking about like everything in the past but nothing in the present, bringing up like all their crazy exes, how everybody wants them but like they don't want those people because they're just crazy, like how they start to love bomb and speed up the relationship as fast as possible to be able to lock you in, comparing you to other people, belittling you, being passive aggressive. Like all these things are different like signs and red flags that you need to be watching out for. And so like understanding, first off, like it's hard to spot, and that's why you need to get a lot of education, understanding, and awareness, because if you've been with a narcissistic person, odds are until you understand, till you recognize, till you avoid it, a lot of times you're going to go back either with that person or you're going to get with another person that's toxic. And so you start to see this, and you'll slowly over time, you'll start to see it faster. Now people are like, whoa, nope, I just saw that. That doesn't match up with who I want to be. That doesn't match up with who I want in my life. And at first, it'll feel really, really annoying. Because you're like, wait a second. Like, am I surrounded by narcissists? Like, is this something that is like just my life? And sometimes it is, based on your upbringing, based on the things you've been through, based on the previous partners, your education, religion, whatever it might be. You're around a lot of people that are narcissistic. But it will help you see and adjust the direction you're going by taking out the people that are toxic in your life. Removing yourself from their lives and being like, I'm no longer going to engage with you because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, so recognizing it, I think, is like first and foremost. You have to understand what it is, then you have to recognize it so that you can actually avoid it. And when we're talking about avoiding it, it's not enough just to know it, but then you have to like apply it. Like we have to bring it full circle so it actually makes sense and you actually avoid what's happening. And so typically one of the biggest things we talk about, and we've got several videos about this as well, but like one of the biggest things we talk about is boundaries. And when I talk about boundaries, I've morphed a lot in my definition and my design of boundaries, okay? And so when talking about boundaries, I'm talking about the guardrails keeping you aligned with your values. Like when I'm talking about boundaries, I'm talking about like the direction. So like we have these, and I'm not talking about blinders, like you can't see. I'm just saying like, hey, this keeps you focused on the direction that you need to go. This keeps you focused with your vision, with your values of moving forward with your purpose of this is who I'm called to be. When you develop those boundaries, it helps keep you safe from toxic people trying to sideswipe and get into your life because you're like, nope, like that doesn't align with the direction that I'm going, with the purpose and with who I want to be. The biggest thing with that is trying to actually find yourself. Boundaries are the guardrails that keep you aligned with your values and move forward with your vision. Knowing yourself, like that's where you start to struggle, because without a vision of who you are, without a vision of who you are now and the direction you want to go, there's nothing you can do. Like until you know where you are on the map and where you want to go, you can't find a direction to get there. You can't map out something when there's no place to start, when you have no clue where you are on the map. So like knowing yourself is really good. Okay. And then another aspect is like when you're avoiding it, like there's that piece of like you start to notice it, you like back away. Like you start to move out of that person's life, and that is not running away. That is called protection. That's called protecting you. Okay? All right, so let's talk about some practical things really quick. What do we do with that? Like recognizing it, avoiding it, what do we actually do with it? Okay, and we're going to talk specifically about boundaries. I know I've talked about that recently, but I wanted to bring it up again. Okay, first off, number one, boundaries are for you. Okay, boundaries are to limit the shit that you take. So when you have this line in the sand here, you're like, hey, like you can mess with me all the way up to here, but after this, like I'm out. Like I'm not going to engage with you anymore if this is consistently what you're going to do. You need to set boundaries, and the boundaries are for you. They're not for anyone else. They're not to limit everybody else. They are to limit the access and the toxicity that you allow into your life. Okay, boundaries number two, they're priority for your healing. Like if you don't have boundaries, it's not going to help you get any better. Just like if you work out, but you still eat crappy food, you're not going to get any healthier. You're not going to look any better. The boundaries are needed to prioritize for your healing. If you don't have that, it's not going to happen. And third thing is boundaries need to be maintained, and they need to have consequences or you get run over. Okay, I normally say a boundary without a consequence is a speed bump that the narcissist is going to continue to run over. So like when you say, hey, don't do this, and they do that, and then you're like, well, it's fine. Then you just lost complete respect. You just lost complete regard for anything. And as a result, they're always going to go over that boundary knowing that it doesn't matter to you. So you need to understand it has to matter to you to such a degree that you're willing to follow through. So many people say, well, like I can't take this anymore. Like, if you're going to keep doing this, like, I'm going to leave. And they're like, oh, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then 2 days later, they do it, and then you stay. Okay, so like you need to understand like setting up boundaries and actually moving through. Okay, so really bonus. So like you can have like an idea really quick. When we're talking about boundaries and you're thinking like maybe they're changing, maybe something's different, should I stay? I want you to think of this really quick. Sit down and develop 6 boundaries that are time sensitive and quantifiable. Like, I want this to happen within this amount of time. I want him to start yelling at me by this amount of time. I want to have, only 2 fights a week versus 20 fights a week. Like set something up that is like concrete of like, this is the direction that I'm going. This is where I want to be in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months, whatever it might be. Set up 6 boundaries. Set boundaries/goals. Time sensitive and that are quantifiable. You can track them. You know what's actually happening or if it's improving or getting worse. Okay? 6 of them. You're allowed, max, to communicate 2. If you give them all 6, they'll check off the list and go right back to what they're doing. Because you want to see, will you perform to hit 2, and then will you continue to grow on your own, or will that just be 2 done and go back to it? If you see 2 done and go back to it, you need to get out because they don't care. All they're doing is to please you in the moment so that they can get what they want, so they can look good, and so they can still have control over you. If you're struggling trying to understand about boundaries, how to apply them, how to put them in your life, a big aspect is knowing you and understanding your vision, your values. We dive into this really deep. So last but not least, if you want to take your healing to the next level, I need you to sign up for the 45-day Clarity Challenge. If you go to claritychallenge.net, you can see what's going on there. You can see how it looks. You can see how we break it down. There's like many lessons. There's like 45 minutes for 45 days. It's going to take you a bit of time. It's not easy. But we're noticing when people go through, they get clear. They get a massive amount of clarity in who they are and what they're struggling with. So you go to claritychallenge.net, be able to check that out. It's one of the last days today to be able to sign up for the month of February. And you won't be able to sign up for another month or so. So please go in there, check it out. If you want clarity finding you again and learning how to set up healthy boundaries and learning about your vision and values, find yourself again by go to claritychallenge.net.